Hello, welcome to the 35th edition of Drive Through Review. Today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons board game Castle Ravenloft. There's already a wealth of information about this game, but actually, first, before I get started, I would like to thank the following people for letting me use their pictures of their minis in my little intro there. And I'll give them credit at the end of the review as well. But Tony Hughes, Giles Dorrington, Anthony Hem, and Scott Ferrier, and I hope I pronounced all their names correctly. But so I really like their minis that they painted, and I haven't painted my minis. I never painted a mini. Who cares? But this is a game I probably would paint these minis because I enjoy this game. Oh, there's the review again. So yeah, so I call this a World of Warcraft killer. Uh, but let me, I won't go too much into the game. There's already like 100 videos. I'll show you a little bit of the components and the gameplay. And I'll be more kind of just reviewing it as I'm showing it and kind of give you my sort of point, hopefully, with this. So let's go from there.
Now, the first thing I like about this game is it comes in a box. So you've got basically this castle in a box. Now, there's several scenarios in here that almost have a story arc to them. Your imagination can kind of fill in the blanks as far as, some of the, loose ends might be in between each of the scenarios. But they're all focused on Castle Ravenloft, and most of them are focused on Strahd here, which is depicted on the cover, and him sort of just terrorizing, the nearby villages and whatnot. So you open this up, you're going to get Castle Ravenloft in a box. Now everything fits in the box, which is nice. You've got your rule book. There's a handful of scenarios that are printed. You can get offline from Wizards of the Coast website. Here's the rule book. This was the adventure book. And then you got everything you need right in the box here. You got your starting tiles, you got your dungeon tiles, which all kind of look the same. It is a castle, so maybe some more artwork could have gone into this. I don't really find it that bad, really. You got your cards here. You got tons of minis. Like you can see, these aren't painted. This obviously is the coolest mini in the game, probably. And that is the dragon. I don't remember the name. Dracolic. It looks like a Dracolic, doesn't it? There. And then you've got this golem guy. So he obviously looks pretty neat. Kind of white. But like I said, they're not painted. Just show you a couple other ones here. That one's pretty neat, huh? Even not painted, these look really cool. There is a dwarf hero. He's the cleric. I like to be the cleric. There's a dragonborn fighter there. There's a awesome looking skeleton. Now you can see from the intro, the painted minis are obviously way better than these, but these are still pretty nice. These are good quality components here. Here's one of my favorites. This is a fire skeleton, and it's probably kind of a little bit hard to see, but it's pretty cool. And it's got the riveted plastic here kind of reflects the light nicely. And then you've got a bunch of different tiles here, encounter tiles. Like if you get a trap on one of these dungeon tiles, you'll put that there to remind you that it goes off every turn. You got your cards here for if you're the Dragonborn fighter, you'll choose this card. And here's one for Clack the sorcerer. Here's one for the ranger. It's got all your standard, role-playing type of characters there. There's the wizard, the cleric. What you're going to do at the beginning of the game is, if you're a fighter, let's say you're the fighter, you're going to go through and grab a certain number of these cards, and these are the abilities you'll have to use for the game. And you can kind of pick and choose how you want to set this up before you start playing, and you can communicate with the other players and say, okay, well, I'm going to take this and that, and as you learn strategies, you might, choose one daily power over another daily power, and choose another utility power over another utility power. And these handy-dandy cards here tell you, what you can choose. Now, you have the ability to level up once per game, so this is by no means a campaign, obviously. And there's no persistence between scenarios. You don't start the next scenario as level 2. I mean, I guess you could, but you're not really supposed to. But this will tell you how many of each of the types of powers you can choose. Now, the nice thing about this is that it is not a campaign. This is not something you have to invest, months of your life to do. And maybe, you don't have a good DM in your area. You know, I have very light role-playing experience. I did it for a couple months in college, like everybody else, and and the DM wasn't really that into. He wasn't serious enough for me. But I've also seen, you know, going into the local game stores, there's DMs that are way too serious for me, and players and characters that are way too serious for me. So it's hard to find a balance of that. And the thing is, this is not like a Descent or whatever, where you have a DM or whatever it's called in Descent. But you've got this book, and it's driving the adventure. You can play by yourself. You can use multiple characters by yourself. I mean, you can play with up to 5 people. Everybody takes a character, and then you just go through it. And when you go through these scenarios, you're going to be drawing tiles from this random stack. So everything's going to be different every single time you do it. It's not like, you know, well, you're in an instance or some crap where you do the same thing over and over until you fall asleep at night. The rooms are going to change every time. You're going to draw monster cards when you flip over one of these tiles here. And it could be a variety of monsters. You could have sort of an easy time. You know, you get these kobolds and maybe a wolf and a rat or something. The zombies aren't that bad. The rats are really easy. These wraiths are sort of a pain in the butt. Another wraith, what's another hard one? Gargoyles are a big pain in the butt. And then you've got these larger villain cards that yeah, I was right, Dracolic. These villains will come into play in various scenarios here. Like this Golem guy here, he's only comes into play in a couple scenarios, and he's got his own villain card. And so the combat's pretty simple. You just kind of roll dice and stuff and add your stuff together. And, you know, if you don't like rolling dice, then don't play this game, obviously. But, you know, you'll be exploring, drawing tiles, drawing monster cards, trying to complete the objective of the quest. And I think with the downloaded one, I've got like 20 different scenarios. And I haven't beat all of them. I beat very few of them. But, you know, that doesn't keep you from playing it or playing the same ones over and over again. So there's tons of replay value. I mean, I don't own Ashardalon, which is the sequel to this, or I probably won't even buy the Drizzt one. Because I haven't, you know, I don't get this to the table quite that often. My group is not really into it, but I played it with my son a bunch, and I played it with my group, and also solo quite a few times. So this is something I could just go in here and just kind of explore this castle, you know, until I get bored of it, and then maybe I'll get the Drizzt one because I read all those books. But it's not going to suck hours of your life from you, you know, like where it's a campaign or something else might suck the life out of you. And not that there's anything wrong with the campaign. I can see definitely the attraction. Now, when I see the Ashardalon box and I see the Drizzt stuff online, and I see these boxes, and then I look next to them, and there's the D&D books and all the minis, and I'm like, oh, that looks sweet. But then I say, don't go down that road, Joel. Don't go down that road. But yeah. But you can see as this is a huge gateway into that. I could see, you know, somebody picking this up and having a great time with it. Now, it is hard. It is somewhat weighted towards the players, and I see lots of people coming up with variants of how to play this, but I don't know that a lot of tweaking is required. There's probably one encounter card that I would remove from the game, and it's like something Doom. So if you ever get it, here it is, Spirit of Doom. So if you ever get this card, you maybe just, or if you get this game, maybe just remove this until you, or you know, beat a couple scenarios or something. Because this one, I don't know about this card. But really, this is the only card I think is just kind of like, did you play test this game or what? But the thing is there's basically 2 things you can do to make it easy. Now, you get these healing surges, and you get 2 for most of the adventures. And when one of your characters maybe dies, you just turn them over like that. And then when it comes his turn again, then you expend one of these healing surges, and then he resurrects, and he gets a certain amount of hit points back. And you go from there. Now, if you use up 2 of these, and then somebody dies again, then the game's over when it comes back to his turn, because you don't have a healing surge to bring him back to life. Now, there's the game as you play it that way is pretty difficult, even the early scenarios. You know, especially if you get hosed by dice rolls. But the rules even instruct that if you just add 1 more healing surge, I think there's 5 in the box, then that's basically easy mode. And I would agree with that. I would say if you add another 3rd healing surge, you have a much higher percentage of beating whatever scenario it is. And that's all it really takes. Now, there's one other aspect that is in most of the variants that I see that I've used, and I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it. So let me just explain it. So when on your turn, if you haven't played, you can either attack and move, or move and attack, or move and then move again. So when you hit an edge like this, then you'll go into what's like called the explore phase. Well, the problem is that stops your movement based on the original rules. So if I hit this edge, it doesn't matter if I have any more movement points to use up. I've stopped. So every time you flip a tile up, you're going to be putting a monster on, and you may or may not be drawing in a counter card based on the color of the arrow on the tile there. Well, what happens then is that the monster immediately, your movement and explore phase are over, and then your villain phase goes, and then the monster that you will now control because you drew that. So whenever you draw it, you get the monster card, and then every time it's your turn, you activate any monsters you might control. He's going to get the drop on you and take a whack at you. If you get a really strong monster on you, he's going to knock you down like half your hit points or whatever, or half your remaining hit points, and that can be frustrating. So one change that I play with, especially when I play with my son, is you get to keep using your movement points even after you've explored the edge. So basically, if you have anything left, then you can use it. And so you kind of have to tactically, move around these squares, and especially if you're deep, as the dungeon grows and you're moving and you're not near any edges, then you kind of sort of have to tactically expend those points up and stay together and stay in a group and things like that, especially if you have a cleric in the group. But really, in my opinion, those two changes, there's not a lot of fiddling. You can either add the extra healing surge, I would say do that, or change the rule with the explore phase there, and you're good to go. The game plays really smoothly, and I would say you should probably go and get this. This is a rule summary here. It's just one page, and it tells you all the things you can. This is the setup really quick there, and then all the phases of the turn, and that's it. And this is really the game. I mean, the rulebook's laid out really nicely, full color, but I would say just print this out and you're good to go. And I will say, as I'm reviewing this, it seems pretty unanimous that there's some better balancing in Ashardalon with the treasure cards and some of the monsters. But I have heard some people say that it's actually more difficult than this game. So take that what it's worth. But it seems like the consensus is, if you don't have either Ashardalon or Ravenloft, go get Ashardalon first, and then get Ashardalon afterwards. And the nice thing is interchangeable too, because you can use these characters, or you can use the monsters if you really want to, and shuffle them up. And the nice thing about this is it doesn't require a whole lot of investment as far as time, like I said before. But there are some good tactical decisions to make, and everything is really flavorful. I don't know if it's just the components or what, or some of the outlines in the scenarios, or maybe because it's always in this castle. You're always going back to this castle. Most places, when these type of things, I guess, when you go to a place, like in World of Warcraft, you go to whatever dungeon or some other multiplayer online thing. You go to a dungeon, you do the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over. But this one, you go to this castle, there's like 20 different scenarios. They're going to play out differently every time. You may or may not see the big bad dragon. You may or may not see the little stupid skeleton this time. You may not draw this treasure. You may not draw that treasure. You may not have a dart trap. You may have some more environmental effects, the blood fog. You're going to have to change your tactics based on that. It's just really a lot of bang for your buck. I think the MSRP is probably ridiculous. I think it's like $80 or something. I don't know. But you can get it online or something for like $40. So it's a little pricey if you buy it for MSRP. But if you think of the cost versus the amount of hours that you can get out of it, each scenario should take you about an hour. So you play it 20 times. That's basically $2 a pop. So you can't beat that.
All right, so that wasn't an overview. That was a review. I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, like I said, this is great. You're sitting there around the table with your family, with your friends, in a dungeon, in a castle, trying to, accomplish whatever scenario you can accomplish, and trying to have a good time while you're doing it. And anyway, I recommend this game. It gets flack left and right, I think, and a lot of people really like it. A lot of people don't. That's just my take on it. I've quite enjoyed this game. It's better than plugging it into friggin' internet or whatever, like where you're watching this video, and frying your brain cells on the catacombs of whatever, and doing it 100 times in a row, over and over and over again for loot or something that doesn't even make any difference. Instead of going into a story where maybe you don't have time for a DM, and you go in there and you get an hour and a half, and you get a cool little story out of it, cooperate with your friends, blah blah blah.